Imagine two siblings growing up together sharing stories and dreams. This is like Ukraine and Russia, two Eastern European countries with deeply intertwined histories. Their story begins over 1,000 years ago with Kievan Rus, centered in Kyiv, now Ukraine's capital. Kievan Rus is the ancestor of both modern Russia and Ukraine. Many traditions, laws, and the Orthodox Christian faith in both countries trace back to this ancient state. This shared origin created similarities in architecture, language, and cuisine. These everyday connections bind people together, often unnoticed. But like siblings, shared beginnings don't guarantee shared futures. Over time, different experiences led to different paths. The story of Ukraine and Russia is one of diverging paths and painful conflict. How could this happen between people with so much common ground? This is what we need to understand. After Kievan Rus, Ukraine became part of larger empires, including the Russian Empire. Decisions about Ukraine were often made in Moscow or St. Petersburg. This period brought the cultures closer but also highlighted Russian dominance. The 20th century brought the Soviet Union, with both countries as Soviet socialist republics. The Soviet era promoted Russian language and culture but also suppressed local identities. The Holodomor, a man-made famine in the 1930s, killed millions of Ukrainians. This event is a deep wound in Ukraine's memory, seen as an act of cruelty by Stalin's regime. These historical events shaped Ukrainian and Russian identities. Ukrainians have a history of struggling for independence and preserving their culture. Some Russians find it hard to accept Ukraine as a separate nation. These historical echoes influence current events profoundly. Understanding this history is crucial to grasping today's conflict. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, and Ukraine declared its independence. Ukrainians voted overwhelmingly to become their own country. For years, Ukraine and Russia maintained close ties, but tensions grew over Ukraine's Western aspirations. Russia's leadership saw Ukraine's move towards Europe and NATO as a threat. In 2014, after a revolution ousted a pro-Russian president, Russia annexed Crimea. This was a shocking violation of Ukraine's sovereignty. In February 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The invasion was seen as an unprovoked act of aggression by most of the world. This war brought unprecedented destruction to Europe. As of May 2025, the fighting continues, with Russia occupying about 18% of Ukrainian land. The front lines have barely moved for 2 years. This brutal war of attrition shows no signs of ending soon. This conflict is not just about politics or territory, it's about people. Ukrainians and Russians have lived, worked, and loved together for generations. Many Ukrainians speak Russian, and many Russians have Ukrainian relatives. Before the war, families often crossed the border for holidays and shared lives. They share music, literature, films, and traditions, creating a common cultural language. The war has forced them into opposing sides, despite these deep connections. The human cost is immense: cities bombed, millions displaced, families torn apart. Soldiers on both sides, many very young, have been killed or wounded. This is the true tragedy of the war. It's a conflict between governments, but ordinary people suffer the most. Ukrainians fight for survival and freedom, while many Russians are horrified by the war. We must see the faces of those affected and remember our shared humanity. What can we learn from the Ukraine-Russia conflict? A shared history doesn't prevent conflict, it can even justify aggression. But history also shows examples of cooperation and peaceful coexistence. Understanding the past is the first step towards a better future. Empathy and awareness are vital, especially for young people. Imagine a child in Ukraine hearing air raid sirens or families separated by war. Empathy helps us understand others' feelings and experiences. Respect for different cultures and identities is crucial in a multipolar world. Dialogue is always better than violence. Even in dark times, people long for peace. The shared cultural threads between Ukrainians and Russians are not entirely broken. By learning from this war, we can contribute to a world where neighbors live in mutual respect.